everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing my reading wrap-up for both October and November. I fell behind and the year is coming to a close, so we gotta smoosh these in. Now I actually didn't read a whole lot for November, so I think this counts. This will work, but I did read a lot for October, so we're gonna move this quickly. Now I'm not entirely sure where I left off in September, but I'm pretty sure the first thing that I read for October is The House with a Clock in Its Walls by John Bellairs. Richard Denny was doing a read-along of this book roughly when the movie came out, and I wanted to try to read this book, especially since when I had the book, my husband goes, "Oh, I loved that book as a kid," and it's like, all right, so let's read this then. And I wasn't necessarily a fan of this book. I feel like younger me might have enjoyed this. This is obviously kid lit, so I'm not the expected audience for this book. This is the first book in a series, at least I believe it's the first book in a series. Yeah, it is. And it kind of like sets up the story. Like Lewis is our main character and he's orphaned in the beginning of the book, and then he moves in with his Uncle Jonathan, and his Uncle Jonathan's house has this like creepy magical vibe to it. There's a mysterious clock in the walls, and they don't know what's going to happen if the clock ticks down to 0. And this is also when Lewis finds out that his Uncle Jonathan and the neighbor, they're both like a wizard and a witch. Like they have the ability to do magic. I liked the characters. I liked the relationship between the characters. I thought overall that was cute and I enjoyed that. However, the story dragged a bit. It's a very short book. Like I said, it's kidlit, so it's like this thick. And the majority of this book was backstory, which makes sense for a first book. However, because it is so thin, when it got to the actual action of the story, it sped too quickly. Like I would have enjoyed this had the book been thicker and there's more going on to the story. Just in relation to the backstory and the action of the story, like it's just the percentages were too skewed for such a small book. In the end, I rated this 2 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. Because I rated it 2 stars, I don't see me continuing on with the series. Now the next book I read for October is The Bone Witch by Rin Chupeco. I had definitely gotten some serious Name of the Wind vibes from this story. This bard like finds our main character, which is the Bone Witch, and then he like starts asking her questions and she tells her story to him. And then it kind of like flips from third person to first person. Like we kind of like go back in time and we're experiencing her past with her. So the Bone Witch discovers that she has the ability to call on the dead, and when she discovers this, she gets recruited to join this academy, and then it's kind of discovered that she is pretty freaking powerful for a novice. And she has the ability to either save the kingdom or destroy it. Oh, our main character's name is Tia. I see that I didn't say that. Like, I thought the story was very cool. I loved the world building. I loved the magic elements. I love how different people have different types of magic. Like some people have I guess it's called runes. Like they have the ability to control certain runes. She has the ability to control like death, like call upon the dead, whereas other people have the ability to call on more like earthly runes. And I freaking loved how each person in this world has like a heart's glass. Like they have this beautiful heart piece that hangs around their neck, and depending on what sort of magical ability you have or no magical ability, that depends on the color of the heart glass, which I thought was very cute and very cool. And if you have magical abilities, you can actually read the heart glass. Like you can read people's emotions out of that. And because it starts off when she was very young, I just thought it made her such a believable character. Like I got to see her grow. In regards to the story, I thought everything kind of like wrapped up nicely at the end. Like the book explains how she had originally started at this academy, but now is on her own. Like I felt like that sort of like it explained things, but also left like a hint of mystery, so you don't know exactly what's happening. So I am very inclined to read book 2. I was more interested in her chapters from the first person, because the chapters with the bard, where the bard is talking to her, like I thought those chapters were overly dramatic. It could be because I was listening to this as an audiobook and the narrator just made that particular acting choice for those chapters, but I didn't necessarily care for that. In the end, I actually rated this 4 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. Next book that I read for October is The Night of the Living Dummy, Goosebumps number 7 by R.L. Stine. I'm kind of realizing as I'm going through all of this that I read this specifically for Spookathon, and now because I didn't prep for this video, I don't know exactly what this is for. I think this was meant to be like my greatest fear, like reading about my fears. Because things that move that shouldn't move is freaking creepy to me. Basically, these two sisters find a dummy in the trash, and one of them thinks it's really cute and so brings it home. And then it actually turns out to be a haunted dummy. Shock. Awe even. As much as I got super creepy vibes off of this, I didn't necessarily understand the need to keep the dummy around. Once it's discovered that this dummy might be alive, like these sisters fought really hard to try to keep the dummy. Like they both wanted the dummy, which I didn't quite get. Like this thing might be alive. Why do you want it so badly? I did listen to this as an audiobook and I loved like the 90s vibe I got from it because very much like the TV show, R.L. Stine did an intro for the audiobook. Like, breeder beware, be scared, or something like that. And I think that's how I'm gonna read Goosebumps from now on, like by the audiobook, especially if R.L. Stine's gonna be introducing it. And another thing that I didn't quite get in the story is the relationship between the two sisters. There's one thing to be competitive, but these two sisters kept crossing lines that I wouldn't necessarily cross with my sister. So in the end, I rated this 3.5 stars out of 5 stars on Goodreads. Creepy, interesting plot, I guess I want to say. More confusing than interesting, but I guess it sort of worked for the story. The next thing that I read was The Cask of Amontillado by Edgar Allan Poe. This was for my fear. This was another book that I read based off of my fears, and that I'm claustrophobic. I didn't realize I was claustrophobic until I had to go get an MRI done. And oh my goodness, I do not like small spaces. And this is basically the main character being really mad at this guy, and so he tricks the guy into coming down into the cellar to try this cask of wine. And in the end, he like buries the guy behind a brick wall. And I also listened to this as an audiobook. I thought it was very creepy, but a little too short. I would love to have like known more about what happened after this guy like buried the guy. Like it just ends of him like leaving the guy behind the wall. So the guy is still alive at this point. Like the second guy is still alive at this point, and I would love to know like what happened afterwards. Like was this guy missed? Like what happened? Like did the killer get caught? So I wish I had known more. I had rated this 4 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. Next thing that I read was Half Minute Horrors was edited by Susan Rich. And it had a bunch of different authors involved with this, such as Neil Gaiman, Leslie Livingston, Lemony Snicket. The title is pretty self-explanatory, Half Minute Horrors. There's just short stories that these authors wrote, and it took like 30 seconds to read each story. Some of them were very creepy. They had that creepy vibe, which was like really impressive for a short story under 30 seconds. And some of them were okay. Like, I thought this was just an incredible concept, and the cast of authors is just impressive as well. In the end, I rated this 3.5 stars on Goodreads. This was for the challenge of read a book of a collection of short stories for like, I guess for spellbinding or whatever that challenge was. And the next thing I read was Coraline by Neil Gaiman. I had listened to this as an audiobook, and this was for the challenge like read a book based off of a spooky house. I saw the movie years ago, and I thought the movie was really creepy. I never had a kids movie like creep me out so much. Like The Other Mother was scary. Overall, I still thought it was very good, but I think I preferred the movie over the book, and it could be because I saw the movie first. I don't know. Just listening to the story, I found that there were plot holes. Granted, like these are plot holes that a kid wouldn't necessarily like pick up on. Like I'm a person that tends to overthink things, so I think that's why I was able to pick up on them. But it's still a really great read for Halloween. In the end, I rated this 4 out of 5 stars. I'm not going to actually talk about the actual story of this book, because honestly, this book has been out for a while, and the movie has been out for a while. But honestly, it feels weird not to. Basically, it's about a girl who moves into a house and finds a mysterious door and went, you know what would be a really great idea? Let's get into this door that's locked. Once I'm through this door, let's trust this lady that says that she is my other mother. Of course, creepy shenanigans ensue. Now we go into November, what I read for November. The first thing I read was Turkey Trot Murder, which is number 4 in the Lucy Stone mystery series. It was written by Leslie Meyer. I actually did a book roast, not necessarily a book review of this recently. If you want to know more about this particular book, check out that review video. It's a murder mystery that I didn't necessarily think worked as a murder mystery. I actually rated this 1 star. I didn't like it. The next thing that I read for November is Sega Volume 9, written by Brian K. Vaughan and illustrated by Fiona Staples. This is a comic book series, and because it is number 9, I can't exactly talk about what happens in this particular volume without spoiling other things that happened. Basically, if you're unfamiliar with the series, it's about a family on the run. There's this like intergalactic war that's happening, one with the horns and one with the wings, and a guy from the horn side and a girl from the wing side, they fall in love, get together, and have a child, which is a huge no-no to the powers of that be on both sides. And so they hunt down this family and try to get rid of the kid. So there's a lot of action, there's a lot of heartfelt moments. A couple times during this story, especially in this book, I found myself going, just bear in mind that a lot of these images are not safe for work, so don't read this at work or don't read this in public if it's something you're going to be embarrassed about. It has been so long since I've read book 8 that I forgot about what a lot had happened leading up to book 9, or volume 9 rather. So I feel like I should have read volume 8 just to refresh my memory for volume 9, because I found a lot of the times in the beginning I found myself confused, and then I like slowly remembered, oh yeah, that's right, this happened. Oh yeah, that's right, that happened. So obviously that wasn't the writer's fault. That obviously was my fault, but it still impacted my enjoyment of the reading of this book. So in the end, I rated this 4.5 stars out of 5 stars on Goodreads. I freaking love these comics. If you haven't read them, I highly recommend them. The illustrations too are just beautiful. Next thing I read was Girl Wash Your Face, Stop Believing the Lies About Who You Are So You Can Become Who You're Meant to Be by Rachel Hollis. This is a nonfiction book. I always forget about Nonfiction November until Caitlin over at Book Chats talks about it on Twitter, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's right, Nonfiction November. So I wanted to try to read at least a couple of nonfiction stuff this month. This book is super popular right now, especially at my library at least, and so I wanted to try to read it. I listened to this as an audiobook, and I have mixed feelings about it. Just a heads up, this is actually a Christian novel, so if you're not up to hearing a lot about the saving grace of Jesus or of God or anything Christian related, I would skip out on this. I was raised a Christian, and so this didn't bother me. In fact, I found some comfort in it. A lot of the things that she did talk about in this book, I can tell that she meant well. I just didn't agree with her in a lot of things. Like, someone on Goodreads said she was tone deaf, and she was. Like, for each chapter she would go over, like, this is the lie I always told myself, and this is how it's not true. Which I found to be really nice. But I didn't necessarily agree with her line of thinking about certain things. At one point she does talk about weight gain and trying to lose weight, and honestly, unless you're a doctor, unless you're my particular doctor, I have no interest about your opinion on weight loss. Like, she gives the opinion of, look, you can look however you want to, but it's unhealthy if you can't go up a flight of stairs without wheezing. And it's like, you know what, honey, I have asthma. I've lost 80 pounds and I still huff and puff when I go up the stairs. So she doesn't think of these things. So she speaks as if she's an expert, but she's not. Like, she's kind of, from what I understand, she's a DIY guru. I don't know who she is. I've never heard of her until now. She has a website on lifestyle, like hacks, like the lifestyle website, The Chick Site. A lot of the stuff she wrote was definitely more towards mothers. I'm not a mother. I have no desire to be a mother. This book was definitely not for me in mind. So in the end, I actually rated this, I think 1.5 stars. What did I rate this? Oh, I rated this 2 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. Now, the next 2 things that I read in November, I actually had to DNF. They were not good. I felt like I was embracing my inner Sylvia. You know, Sylvia from over like Wish Fulfillment. I felt like I really embraced her this month. I started reading Thanksgiving by Janet Ivanich. Thanksgiving by Janet Ivanich was supposed to be like a Thanksgiving themed romance, and I actually got an hour. Yeah, I got into an hour into this audiobook, and I was like, you know what, I just can't do it. It was kind of like insta lust, not insta love, and it was insta family. Like, the story didn't make sense. It was supposed to be like a hate to love sort of thing, but it didn't work at all. It was just cringy. I guess the romantic couple, I'm not remembering their names, and at this point I don't care. But basically the guy is a doctor, and a woman just abandons her child in his care, and he goes to bring this kid to child services, and the woman of this couple goes, no, don't drop off the kid. You were given this child for responsibility. You should take care of it. And the guy goes, well, I shouldn't, but if I'm gonna, you're gonna help me. And so one day, they're not together actually. They just met too. So one day the doctor drops off the baby at her place to babysit, and she's in her pajamas. She like overslept, and she comes down, and she's in this like cute negligee, and she throws on like sweatpants over it to try to like give herself more modesty. And she goes, all right, hold on, give me a second, I gotta go pick up something in the bathroom or bedroom. I don't know why she goes back to her bedroom, but she goes back to her bedroom, and she kind of like momentarily forgotten that she has this guy downstairs with her baby, with this baby, not necessarily hers. And then she like falls back to sleep, and the guy's waiting. He's waiting. He's like, well, let me go check in on her. And he sees that she's asleep, and he goes, oh, this must be an invitation for me. And he goes to kiss her. And understandably, she gets super mad. And that's when I go, you know what? No, this isn't for me. And that's when I DNF'd it. And the next thing I DNF'd was Raspberry Danish Murder by Joanne Fluke. This is number 2 in the Hannah Swenson murder mystery series. And honestly, it wasn't bad. I just knew it was going to be meh. I knew like 50 pages in that I was going to at best rate this 2 out of 5 stars. And I go, you know what? I pushed through Turkey Trot Murder. I'm not pushing through this. And so I DNF'd it. Like at this point in 50 pages, like the mystery hadn't been discovered yet, or the murder hasn't been discovered yet. And so I can't really talk about this because I don't know what it's about. I just was intrigued that it was a Thanksgiving-themed murder mystery without a Thanksgiving-themed title. But I DNF'd it. And that's everything that I read for November. I started reading something else, which was meant for nonfiction November, but I didn't finish it until December. So I'll talk about it in my December reading wrap-up. But because this is meant to be a Vlogmas video, let's end with an unboxing of sorts of the socks. As always, you guys see it first. Oh good, we got Gryffindor socks. Ah, Gryffindor. So what did you think of some of these books? Please feel free to talk about it down in the comments below. As always, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I guess it's ta-ta for now. Bye guys!